Stop explaining yourself. Every time you justify, you bleed power.
The moment you over-explain, you hand your narrative and your authority to someone else. Silence, restraint, and mystery create influence that words alone can never achieve.
Look around. The people who command respect are not the ones who talk the most. They are not the ones who defend every decision, justify every mistake, or beg to be understood. Power does not live in explanations. Power lives in restraint. 500 years ago, Niccolò Machiavelli saw this clearly. In The Prince, he didn't teach leaders how to be liked. He taught them how to remain in control. And one of his darkest, most uncomfortable lessons was this: the moment you feel the need to explain yourself, you have already lost ground. Why? Because explanations place you beneath the listener. They turn you into a defendant. They invite judgment, debate, and doubt. Think about it. When someone accuses you and you rush to defend yourself, what message are you sending? That their opinion matters more than your authority. Machiavelli understood human psychology before the term even existed. He knew that most people judge with their eyes, not their minds. They don't analyze truth deeply. They react to appearance. And the appearance of someone who explains too much is simple: uncertain, shaken, exposed. Silence, on the other hand, does something dangerous. Silence makes people uncomfortable. Silence creates mystery. Silence forces others to imagine. And what people imagine is often far more powerful than reality. In modern life, this lesson is even more important. We live in a world where everyone feels entitled to an explanation. Social media, workplaces, relationships, everyone wants access to your reasons, your thoughts, your fears. And the more you give, the weaker you appear. Explaining has been sold as honesty, but Machiavelli would call it self-sabotage. This video is not about being rude. It's not about being cruel. It's about protecting your authority. Because when you stop explaining yourself, something strange happens. People listen more carefully. They choose their words more cautiously. They hesitate before crossing you. You become harder to read, harder to control, harder to challenge. And that is where real power begins. In this video, I'll show you how silence, restraint, and controlled ambiguity can make you untouchable, without shouting, without aggression, without begging for respect. These are Machiavellian strategies refined for the modern world. Simple to understand, brutal in effect. By the end, you'll never feel the urge to over-explain again, because once you see how power truly works, you won't give it away so cheaply. Let's begin. Number 1. Stay silent under attack. The moment someone attacks you, accuses you, or pressures you to respond, your instinct will scream at you to explain. Your mind will rush to defend your image, your intention, your side of the story. This is exactly the trap. Power is not lost when you are attacked. Power is lost when you react emotionally to the attack. Machiavellian logic is ruthless but accurate. When you rush to defend yourself, you accept the frame of the aggressor. You silently agree that they have the right to judge you. The conversation shifts from your control to theirs. You stop being the authority and become the accused. Silence breaks this dynamic instantly. It refuses the frame altogether. Silence under attack is not weakness. It is a psychological disruption. Most people expect resistance, excuses, or emotional reactions. When none come, they feel uncertainty. That uncertainty works in your favor. The attacker starts to question their own position. They wonder if they went too far, if they misunderstood, or if you know something they do not. This hesitation is where power quietly returns to you. Staying silent does not mean freezing in fear. It means remaining composed and deliberate. Your body language matters. A calm face, relaxed posture, steady eye contact. No rushed movements, no nervous gestures. Your stillness sends a message louder than words ever could. It says you are not threatened. It says their words did not land. It says you are above the need to defend yourself. When you speak too quickly, you give away information. You reveal emotions, priorities, and vulnerabilities. An attacker listens carefully for cracks. Silence denies them that access. They cannot twist words you never gave them. They cannot argue against a position you never explained. They are left fighting shadows. This strategy works because most confrontations are not about truth. They are about dominance. People attack to test boundaries, to see how easily you fold. Silence passes the test. It shows that pressure does not control you. It forces the other person to carry the weight of the confrontation alone, and that weight becomes uncomfortable fast. There is another advantage to silence under attack. It buys you time. Time to observe, time to read the room, time to understand motives. While they speak, they reveal themselves, their tone, their insecurity, their hidden agenda. By not interrupting with defense, you gain information while giving none away. Eventually, most attackers overextend. They talk too much. They expose their emotions. They contradict themselves. At that moment, you are no longer reacting. You are choosing if and how to respond. And often, the strongest move is to say very little or nothing at all. Silence turns the attack into a one-sided performance. The louder they get, the calmer you appear. And in the eyes of observers, that contrast decides who holds authority. Number 2, respond with calm detachment. After silence, the next layer of power is emotional control. Calm detachment is not about pretending you don't care. It is about refusing to let others see what affects you. Machiavelli understood that emotions, once visible, become leverage. The moment someone senses panic, anger, or insecurity, they know exactly where to press next. Most people lose authority not because they are wrong, but because they look disturbed. Their voice changes, their posture tightens, their words speed up. These small signals announce that the challenge has reached inside them. Calm detachment shuts that door completely. It creates the impression that nothing external has the power to shake you. When you respond with calm detachment, you do not deny or confirm accusations directly. You acknowledge without owning. A short, neutral response keeps you centered while pushing responsibility back onto the other person. You are not fighting their narrative. You're standing outside of it. This position feels unsettling to those who expect emotional engagement. Detachment flips the power balance because it removes urgency. Attacks feed on reaction. Without it, they starve. The other person begins to escalate, repeat themselves, or seek validation from others. Each of these moves makes them appear reactive and unstable, while you remain measured and grounded. Observers instinctively side with the person who looks in control. Calm detachment also protects your long-term image. Emotional reactions may feel satisfying in the moment, but they linger in memory. People remember who lost control. They remember who looked rattled. Detachment leaves no such stain. It allows you to exit the interaction cleanly without having exposed anything personal or strategic. This approach is especially effective because it feels counterintuitive. Humans are wired to mirror emotion. When someone confronts us aggressively, we expect to respond in kind or collapse into defense. Detachment breaks this mirror. It creates emotional dissonance. The other person feels exposed while you remain opaque. There is discipline required here. Detachment means resisting the urge to correct misunderstandings immediately. It means allowing others to sit with their assumptions. This restraint feels uncomfortable at first, especially if you are used to explaining yourself to maintain peace or approval. But approval is not power. Stability is. Detached responses also give you flexibility. You are not committing to a position under pressure. You are not locking yourself into statements that can be used against you later. You leave room to act, adjust, or respond on your terms, not theirs. Over time, people learn something important about you. They learn that emotional manipulation does not work. They learn that pressure does not extract explanations. They learn that you cannot be easily provoked. This reputation alone reduces future challenges. Calm detachment sends a silent message that speaks louder than any defense. It says you are centered, self-contained, and unmovable. And in a world driven by emotional chaos, the person who remains calm automatically stands above the noise. Number 3. Weaponize ambiguity. Ambiguity is uncomfortable for most people. The human mind craves clarity, labels, and certainty. Machiavelli understood this weakness and used it as a tool. When you explain too clearly, you give others something solid to attack. When you remain ambiguous, you deny them that ground. Power grows in the space where certainty disappears. Weaponizing ambiguity means you reveal less than expected and never more than necessary. You do not rush to clarify intentions, motives, or future moves. You allow your words to remain open-ended. This is not confusion. It is deliberate control. Clear explanations satisfy curiosity, but weaken leverage. Ambiguity keeps leverage in your hands. When people cannot fully read you, they begin to speculate. Speculation is dangerous because it fills gaps with imagination. Some will assume you are strategic, others will assume you are connected, prepared, or holding information back. Rarely do people assume weakness in the face of controlled vagueness. Silence and ambiguity often inflate perceived strength. Ambiguity also protects you from commitment. The moment you explain in detail, you lock yourself into expectations. Others begin to measure you against your words. Ambiguity keeps you flexible. You can adjust your direction without appearing inconsistent because you never revealed the full plan to begin with. This strategy shifts psychological labor onto others. Instead of you working to convince or clarify, they work to interpret. That mental effort creates imbalance. The person thinking harder about the interaction is no longer in control of it. They are reacting to you, not the other way around. In social and professional environments, ambiguity increases authority because it mirrors how powerful figures behave. Leaders, decision-makers, and influential people rarely explain every move. They speak in general terms. They hint rather than reveal. This pattern signals hierarchy. People unconsciously associate vagueness with higher status because those at the top are not required to justify themselves. Ambiguity also limits vulnerability. Detailed explanations expose fears, priorities, and insecurities. Vague responses keep your internal world protected. Others cannot exploit what they cannot see. They cannot twist motives that were never stated. They cannot argue with intentions that were never confirmed. There is restraint involved in using ambiguity effectively. The temptation is to overtalk when questioned. The discipline is to stop early. A short pause, a measured phrase, or a non-committal answer often carries more weight than a full explanation. It signals that you are choosing what to reveal, not struggling to be understood. Over time, ambiguity builds a reputation. People come to see you as someone whose actions matter more than words, someone whose silence means something, someone who is not easily decoded. This reputation alone increases influence because people treat you carefully when they are unsure of your limits or intentions. Weaponized ambiguity is not about deception, it is about preservation of power. By refusing to over-clarify, you stay ahead of interpretation, ahead of judgment, and ahead of control. In that uncertainty, your presence grows larger than any explanation ever could. Number 4, let actions speak for you. Words invite debate, actions end it. Machiavelli understood that power is proven, not explained. The moment you start justifying plans, intentions, or ambitions, you expose them to interference. Opinions form, resistance grows, envy awakens. Letting actions speak removes all of that before it begins. When you move quietly, you deny others the chance to sabotage, criticize, or prepare against you. Most people announce what they are about to do because they crave validation. They want reassurance. But validation is a trade. You exchange future leverage for present comfort. Power demands the opposite exchange. Actions that speak do not seek applause. They appear after the work is done. Results change the conversation instantly. No one asks why you chose a path when it clearly worked. No one demands explanations from someone standing on visible success. Achievement compresses justification into a single, undeniable fact. There is also a psychological shift when you stop explaining and start acting. You become internally anchored. Your confidence stops depending on agreement. You no longer need permission or approval to proceed. This independence is sensed by others even if nothing is said. People respond differently to those who act without asking. Silence combined with action creates asymmetry. While others talk, you advance. While they analyze possibilities, you accumulate outcomes. By the time they understand what you were doing, it is already real. This timing advantage is one of the most underestimated forms of power. Letting actions speak also filters your audience. Those who respect results will recognize your value without explanation. Those who demand constant justification reveal themselves as noise. You save energy by not trying to convince everyone. Power grows when you choose where to invest attention. Another advantage is narrative control. When you explain intentions early, others frame your story for you. They assign motives, judge direction, and define success on their terms. When you act first, the narrative forms around what happened, not what was promised. Reality becomes your shield. Quiet action also limits emotional exposure. Talking about plans ties your identity to outcomes before they exist. If something fails, you feel compelled to explain. When you move silently, adjustments happen privately. There is no public retreat, no damaged image, no need to defend unfinished ideas. Over time, this approach changes how people approach you. They stop asking what you're going to do. They start watching what you do. Attention shifts from your words to your behavior. This is a higher position. It places you beyond discussion and into observation. Machiavelli warned that those who reveal too much invite opposition. Those who act decisively invite compliance. Action carries authority because it requires commitment, risk, and execution. Talking requires none of these. When your actions speak, silence becomes credibility. You no longer need to explain choices because your movement already answered the question. And in a world full of talkers, the one who moves quietly and delivers becomes impossible to ignore. Number 5. Project unshakable confidence. Confidence is not about what you feel, it is about what you allow others to see. Machiavelli understood that perception shapes reality more than truth ever does. People follow the person who appears certain, not the one who is correct, but hesitant. The projection of confidence creates authority long before results are examined. Unshakable confidence begins with control of expression. Doubt may exist internally, but it never leaks outward. The moment uncertainty becomes visible, others sense permission to question, challenge, or undermine. Long explanations often come from a need to soften doubt. Removing them preserves the illusion of certainty, and illusion is often enough. Human beings instinctively look for signals of stability. They read tone, posture, pacing, and stillness. A steady voice communicates control. Measured movement suggests deliberation. Calm breathing signals dominance over emotion. None of these require talent. They require restraint. Restraint is the foundation of projected confidence. Public doubt damages authority because it shifts the burden of belief onto others. When you explain too much, you invite reassurance. You ask to be believed rather than assuming belief. This reverses hierarchy. Confidence, when projected cleanly, does the opposite. It assumes acceptance and forces others to either align or stand alone. This projection also influences how people interpret mistakes. Confident individuals are forgiven faster. Their errors are seen as calculated risks rather than incompetence. The same outcome judged under uncertainty appears reckless. Confidence reframes perception without changing facts. Another critical element is refusal to overcorrect. When challenged, the instinct is to clarify every detail to regain control. This usually backfires. Overcorrection signals insecurity. A confident projection allows tension to exist without resolution. It holds space instead of filling it with justification. Confidence also regulates how others treat you in future interactions. People remember who stood firm. They recall who did not bend under pressure. Over time, fewer challenges arise because expectations change. You become known as someone who does not waver or over-explain. This projection is not arrogance. Arrogance seeks attention. Confidence does not. It remains quiet, stable, and unmoved. Arrogance reacts. Confidence observes. The difference is felt immediately and respected instinctively. Maintaining this presence requires discipline. You must resist the urge to convince. You must tolerate misunderstanding. You must allow others to sit with incomplete information. This discomfort is the price of authority. Those who pay it rise above explanation. Machiavelli understood that men judge with their eyes. What they see becomes truth to them. If they see confidence, they assume competence. If they see composure, they assume control. Words rarely change this impression once formed. Projecting unshakable confidence is not about lying to others. It is about mastering what you reveal. When you remove doubt from the surface, you remove leverage from others. And in that absence, your presence becomes firm, centered, and difficult to challenge. Number 6. Use strategic pauses. Speed is often mistaken for intelligence. In reality, speed under pressure usually signals loss of control. Machiavelli understood that power moves at its own pace. A strategic pause, even a short one, reclaims dominance in any interaction because it shifts the rhythm. Whoever controls the rhythm controls the exchange. When you answer immediately, you appear reactive. You look as though the question pulled something out of you. A pause reverses this dynamic. It shows that you are choosing your response rather than being forced into it. This choice is felt instantly by the other person. even if they cannot explain why. Silence after a question creates tension. Most people are uncomfortable with it. They rush to fill the gap, clarify, soften, or explain further. In doing so, they reveal more than they intended. A pause turns pressure back onto the one who applied it. Instead of you being examined, they begin to expose themselves. Strategic pauses also signal mental depth. They suggest that you are processing, weighing consequences, and thinking several steps ahead. Whether or not this is true in the moment is irrelevant. Perception defines authority. A thoughtful delay appears deliberate and commanding. Pauses prevent emotional leakage. When challenged unexpectedly, emotions rise before logic catches up. Speaking too soon allows those emotions to escape through tone and word choice. A pause lets emotion settle. It gives you space to respond from control rather than impulse. This alone separates leaders from reactors. There is also a hierarchy effect. Those with less power rush to respond because they fear losing attention or approval. Those with more power take time. They assume the room will wait. A pause silently asserts that assumption. It places you higher in the social order without saying a word. In conversations, pauses make people listen more closely. After silence, words carry extra weight. A short response following a pause lands harder than a long explanation delivered quickly. This economy of speech enhances authority because it suggests precision rather than verbosity. Pauses also protect you from traps. Many questions are designed to provoke, corner, or extract commitment. Responding instantly locks you into their frame. A pause allows you to recognize intent and avoid being pulled into a position that weakens you. Over time, using strategic pauses conditions others. They stop interrupting. They choose words more carefully. They respect the space you create. This change happens quietly, but it is lasting. Machiavelli knew that restraint magnifies presence. The person who can sit comfortably in silence communicates self-mastery, and self-mastery is the foundation of all external power. Strategic pauses do not require confidence, they create it. Each time you pause, you remind yourself and others that you are not hurried, not pressured, and not controlled. In that stillness, authority settles naturally around you. Number 7. Adopt a mysterious persona. Mystery is a force multiplier. Machiavelli understood that people fear and respect what they cannot fully understand. When everything about you is visible, predictable, and explained, you become easy to manage. When parts of you remain hidden, you become difficult to read, and difficulty creates distance. Distance creates authority. Adopting a mysterious persona does not mean acting strange or deceptive. It means controlling access. You decide what others know, when they know it, and how much they receive. Most people overshare because they want connection. Power comes from selective revelation, not openness. A mysterious presence changes how people behave around you. They listen more carefully. They hesitate before asking invasive questions. They avoid casual disrespect. This happens because uncertainty raises the perceived cost of crossing you. People are cautious around what they cannot predict. Mystery also protects your intentions. When others do not know what motivates you, they cannot manipulate your incentives. When they cannot anticipate your next move, they cannot prepare against it. Predictability is comfort for others and vulnerability for you. In social dynamics, those who speak less often become the focus. Silence draws attention. Short answers invite curiosity. Curiosity fills the absence with speculation, and speculation usually exaggerates. People assume depth, strategy, and seriousness where they lack information. A mysterious persona also filters relationships. Those who respect boundaries will remain. Those who demand full access reveal entitlement. You gain clarity about who values you for presence rather than information. Maintaining mystery requires consistency. If you explain everything one day and withdraw the next, it feels artificial. Mystery works when it feels natural, when restraint is part of your identity. You are not hiding, you are simply not volunteering. This persona also gives you emotional protection. By revealing less, you give others fewer entry points. Criticism loses accuracy when it lacks detail. Attacks become vague, and vague attacks rarely land. Machiavelli wrote that a leader must know how to conceal intentions. This concealment was not about lies, it was about timing. Revealing too early weakens leverage. Revealing too late preserves control. Mystery allows you to choose that moment. Over time, mystery compounds. Each unanswered question adds to the image. Each quiet response deepens the impression. People begin to attribute purpose to your silence. Even neutrality is interpreted as strategy. In a world where everyone explains themselves endlessly, mystery stands out. It signals independence from approval. It communicates that you do not need to be understood to move forward. Adopting a mysterious persona is about mastering what remains unsaid. When you control your exposure, you control how others perceive you. And when perception tilts in your favor, influence follows without effort. Number 8. Say less than necessary. Power is economical. It wastes nothing, especially words. Machiavelli understood that excess speech weakens position because it creates openings. Every extra sentence is a thread someone can pull. Saying less than necessary closes those openings before they appear. Most people speak to relieve internal pressure. They talk to reduce discomfort, to be liked, to feel understood. This habit is costly. It hands control to whoever is listening. The one who needs to talk is the one seeking balance. The one who stays brief already has it. Brevity signals certainty. When your responses are short, they appear settled, not provisional. Long explanations sound like negotiations with reality. Short statements sound like conclusions. This difference shapes how others respond to you. Saying less also reduces liability. Words can be quoted, twisted, or remembered selectively. Silence cannot. Minimal speech limits the surface area of attack. Opponents cannot argue with what was never said. They cannot exploit details that were never shared. There is also a tempo advantage. Short responses slow conversations down. They force others to do the work of continuation. This places you in a passive position of evaluation rather than active defense. You become the one being responded to, not the one responding. Brevity creates authority because it mimics decisiveness. Leaders issue directives, not essays. Judges deliver verdicts, not explanations. This pattern is deeply ingrained in human perception. Saying less aligns you with positions of finality rather than uncertainty. This approach also strengthens boundaries. When you explain too much, you invite further questions. Each answer becomes a doorway to another inquiry. Brief replies close those doors. They signal that access is limited and controlled. Saying less than necessary does not mean being cold or dismissive. It means being intentional. You choose words that stand alone. You stop before comfort urges you to continue. This restraint becomes visible over time and changes how people approach you. In difficult interactions, brevity prevents escalation. Long explanations create friction. They invite disagreement and interpretation. Short responses reduce emotional fuel. They leave less to react against. There is discipline required here. Silence after speaking feels awkward. The urge to fill it is strong. Resisting that urge builds internal strength. It trains you to sit with discomfort without surrendering control. Machiavelli understood that verbosity makes leaders appear uncertain. Certainty requires fewer words. The more secure the position, the shorter the explanation. Over time, saying less than necessary becomes a signature. People recognize your style. They adapt. Conversations become cleaner. Respect increases because your words carry weight. In a noisy world, restraint is rare, and rarity is power. When you say only what must be said and nothing more, your presence becomes sharper, clearer, and harder to challenge. Number 9. Let them fill in the gaps. The human mind hates empty space. When information is missing, people rush to complete the picture on their own. Machiavelli understood this instinct and recognized its value. When you refuse to explain, you do not leave silence empty. You leave it active. Others rush in to fill it for you. This is where power quietly multiplies. When people create their own interpretations, they become emotionally invested in those interpretations. The story feels real to them because they authored it. Whether their conclusion favors or fears you, it changes how they behave around you. When you explain everything, you control the details, but limit imagination. When you explain nothing, imagination runs wild. Most people assume intention where none was stated. They attribute foresight, strategy, or hidden strength, simply because they cannot see the full picture. Letting others fill in the gaps also distances you from responsibility for perception. You did not claim anything. You did not promise anything. You did not defend anything. Their assumptions exist independently of your words. This removes pressure while increasing influence. Silence creates asymmetry. You know what you are doing. They do not. That imbalance shapes interaction. People speak more carefully when they are unsure. They hesitate before pushing boundaries. Uncertainty breeds caution, and caution works in your favor. This dynamic also filters alliances. Those who project negative assumptions reveal fear or insecurity. Those who project respect reveal alignment. You gain insight into others without revealing yourself. Their interpretations become diagnostic tools. Letting others fill the gaps also protects flexibility. If you clarify too early, you trap yourself inside expectations. If you remain silent, outcomes define meaning after the fact. Success reframes silence as strategy. Even failure becomes ambiguous rather than exposed. Most confrontations collapse when there is nothing concrete to attack. Accusations lose strength without confirmation. Criticism becomes speculation. Speculation rarely mobilizes real opposition. This approach also changes your internal posture. You stop worrying about managing perception moment to moment. You allow perception to form naturally. This reduces anxiety and increases composure, which further reinforces authority. Machiavelli understood that rumor and assumption are tools of power. Leaders who master them do not chase clarity. They let ambiguity work. People talk, stories spread. But because nothing was confirmed, nothing can be pinned. Over time, this creates a presence that feels larger than reality. You become someone surrounded by interpretation. Some fear you, some admire you, very few ignore you. And attention, even indirect, is influence. Letting others fill in the gaps is not passive. It is strategic restraint. You are not losing control of the narrative. You are refusing to shrink it by over-defining it. In a world desperate for explanations, the one who withholds them gains space. And in that space, perception grows. Power lives there quietly without defense or declaration. Number 10. Master your narrative. Controlling your narrative is the ultimate form of power. Machiavelli understood that history remembers the image, not the explanation. Those who over-explain surrender control of perception. Every justification, every defense, every elaboration hands someone else the pen to write your story. Mastering your narrative means deciding what others see and shaping what they remember. When you constantly explain yourself, you operate reactively. Each defense responds to another person's agenda. You are pulled in 1,000 directions, answering questions that may not serve your purpose. Mastering your narrative flips the dynamic. You decide what is revealed, when it is revealed, and how it is framed. Others respond to you rather than you to them. A strong narrative is built on restraint. Every word, action, and public display contributes. Over-explaining dilutes the message and muddies the impact. Concise actions, controlled statements, and deliberate omissions preserve clarity. People remember patterns more than details, and your narrative forms around consistent impressions, not exhaustive explanations. Mastery also involves anticipation. Before responding, consider, does this explanation empower me, or does it weaken me? If it diminishes authority, remain silent. If it reinforces control, reply strategically and briefly. The goal is not to avoid communication, but to shape it intentionally. Every word you speak becomes a tool or a liability. Use them selectively. Another layer is reputation. Your narrative is reinforced by consistency over time. People begin to form expectations of you. When you act predictably in style but unpredictable in detail, you maintain mystery while appearing steady. The combination strengthens influence. Observers know you are deliberate but cannot fully predict your motives. That uncertainty works in your favor. Mastering the narrative also protects you from rumor and misinterpretation. When others attempt to define you, you resist by limiting material. The less you give, the less they can manipulate. Silence, ambiguity, and selective revelation build an invisible shield. Their assumptions may be incorrect, but their energy is consumed thinking about you rather than acting against you. Strategic storytelling is also vital. Every interaction offers an opportunity to reinforce your image. Small phrases, measured pauses, and consistent behavior contribute more than lengthy justifications ever could. The story is told through presence and performance, not verbose explanations. Ultimately, controlling your narrative is about ownership of perception. Power lies not in defending against criticism, but in guiding it. Over time, mastery of narrative creates a self-reinforcing cycle. Your reputation precedes you, others defer to your authority, and your influence grows without constant effort. Machiavelli's final lesson is clear. Those who control the story control power itself. The moment you start over-explaining, you relinquish that control. Choose silence, brevity, and strategic revelation. Shape the perception of your presence. Let your narrative rise above gossip, debate, and scrutiny. When done correctly, people will chase understanding rather than you chasing approval. You become untouchable because your story is yours alone. Machiavelli lived in an age where power was fragile, and one careless word could topple kings. He observed that authority is not built by constant explanation. It is built by restraint, mystery, and control. Those who justify themselves constantly surrender their narrative. They hand others the pen to define their reputation. Silence, measured words, and deliberate action, on the other hand, create influence that is untouchable. When you refuse to explain every choice, you reclaim control. People begin to notice your composure, your poise, your ability to act without needing validation. They wonder what drives you, what you truly know, and how far your reach goes. In that gap, you dominate, not by force, but by presence. You become someone who commands attention, who dictates the pace of interaction, and who turns curiosity into respect. The world starts filling in the blanks in your favor because you no longer feed it with unnecessary details. This is the essence of modern Machiavellian power. It is not about being cruel or manipulative. It is about being strategic, disciplined, and untouchable. The moment you over-explain, you weaken. The moment you act, pause, and speak only when necessary, you strengthen. Master these principles, and you shift from being someone who reacts to the world to someone the world reacts to. If you found value in this strategy, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more insights on power, influence, and mastery. Every action you take toward understanding and applying these principles puts you steps ahead of the crowd. Start today. Observe your impulses to justify, defend, or over-clarify. Replace them with silence, action, and calculated brevity. Let your work, your presence, and your controlled mystery speak for you. Those who chase explanations will always be behind. Those who master silence and narrative will always be ahead. Your authority, your influence, and your power are yours to claim, but only if you stop explaining and start controlling what truly matters: how the world perceives you,